The Bigfooty Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, Conda, power. I love the power. I love the power.
Welcome everyone, this is the Bigfooty Port Adelaide podcast brought to you by New Vision and Port Fan Radio. You're listening to us live here on Port Fan Radio. I am your host Macca 19 and joining us, as always, is Fishing Rick. Or maybe not. Is he there?
I just want a dead air just to freak you out.
Oh, okay. Good work.
Mate,
that's great. Good, buddy. Good.
Sorry,
had a good week?
Thought I'd do something random. I had an awesome week. What about you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's been pretty chilled,
Yeah?
so back to work tomorrow. So, away we go.
That's just outrageous. That's almost like blasphemy, saying that.
Mm.
And here's some more blasphemy. Macca, are you going to be watching the game live on Saturday?
No, I won't be because I'll be working.
That is outrageous.
It is outrageous, mate. It's probably, outside of weddings, it would be the first game I haven't watched live since probably about 2009, I reckon.
What is going on in the world? I think all Port Adelaide fans are just going to be very, very disappointed in what's going on here. It just doesn't seem right.
Well, that's it. I mean, you're moving to America. I'm working weekend, so...
What are you talking about, moving to America? That's not true.
That's not true, no.
No.
You're moving to other parts of Australia, so there we go.
I'm just moving everywhere. I'm off to Bali in a couple of weeks.
Bali?
Yeah.
Crazy. Just
How
don't
cool
bring
is
your
that?
boogie board bag, mate. You'll be fine.
Really? Yes. I'll try and stay away from that one.
That's it. Right, let's get straight into it here. We'll start off with the questions. We'll change things up a bit and go with the Bigfooty questions from the forum. So what we will do is, the first question is from Dylan8, because there was a bit of a chatter on the Bigfooty forum about Jim Carrey and his best films and The Cable Guy, whether it's any good or not. So his question is The Cable Guy even a top 5 Jim Carrey film?
Well, that's a very, very serious question for our football program. And I did a bit of reflection. And, I had Yes Man up there.
Yep.
I thought Yes Man was a really, really good movie.
Yes Man?
I did. Yes Man.
Didn't you think it was just a complete rip-off of his other film, Liar Liar?
Well, I was going to say I like Liar Liar as well. So, but no, I thought Yes Man was pretty good. And I also, obviously, his Ace Ventura, which catapulted him to stardom, has to be up there. And what's the other one I'm thinking of? Is it
Dumb and
was
Dumber.
he the original Bruce Almighty?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was a good movie. Dumb and Dumber and Cable Guy.
Okay. Yep.
I wasn't a big fan of The Grinch.
It was okay. My top 5 would be Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That's number 1 by a mile.
Do you know, I only watched that the other night.
It's awesome. It probably is my favourite film ever, I would
Really?
say. Yeah, it's either first or second. It's that good.
If you're going to compare comedians, Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler, have you seen Adam Sandler in Punch Drunk Love?
I try and... Yeah, I don't know. I got over Adam Sandler about 10 years ago.
Well, if you like that Eternal Sunshine, watch Punch Drunk Love. That's a really good movie too.
Okay, fair enough. Then I'd have Dumb and Dumber second. That's an all-time classic. Ace Ventura, number 3. Then Cable Guy for me. And then Me, Myself and Irene, which I reckon is pretty bloody good as well.
Yeah, that's a good movie too.
He's been in a lot of good movies. And that's...
Actually,
like Ace Ventura 2 was really good, as was Liar Liar.
Yeah.
He's been in so many good films. He's a
And
legend.
just to hijack off of Jim Carrey with the Saturday Night Live theme, what about, did you ever watch Night at the Roxbury?
Yes.
That was an awesome movie.
That was not too bad. That was the only decent thing that tall bugger's ever done.
Will Ferrell?
Will Ferrell, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only decent movie he's ever been in.
What about Blades of Glory? That was pretty
No.
good.
No.
And Step Brothers, Boats
No.
and Hose. Come on.
No.
Nah, he's done a couple. Blades of Glory and Boats and Hose was. But Step Brothers were pretty good too. Maybe that could be a question for next week.
Maybe. Next question is Teak from T-Crate, one of the new mods. How do you think Sam Powell-Pepper will go against the big bodies of the Swans midfield? And can you think of a more highly anticipated debut for Port than his?
I don't like this question. This is actually a football question. What's going on here?
Right.
This is now.
This is a football podcast, mate.
Is it? Oh, I thought it was just a random bullshit chit-chat podcast with a bit of football in there. So what was the question? Sam Powell-Pepper, how will he go?
How will he go against the big bodies of the Swans midfield?
Oh, well, you think he would? You think he would go okay? Don't you reckon? I reckon he'd go okay.
I think he'll. Hopefully, he'll hold his own. I mean, it's a bit of a blaze of glory for him, a baptism of fire, whatever. You're not going to get a more tougher midfield than Sydney's in terms of sort of strength and size and just girth and all that sort of stuff. So, I think he'll fit in pretty well. Whether he's going to play all right against that sort of midfield or whether he'll even get that many midfield minutes, I'm not 100% sure.
Do you think...
what are you doing?
Just got this, I don't know. I just got this random noise. Oh, you know what it is? It's Bigfooty with a pop-up ad.
Ah, get rid of Bigfooty, mate.
Yeah, that's where I get all my good facts from, Bigfooty. Well, I don't know. The only thing I'd be concerned with is he might go over physical and potentially get reported trying too hard.
Possibly. I think in terms of the second part of the question there, in terms of hype, I think it's probably on par with Nick Stevens and Travis Boak and their debuts. But I think Johnny Butcher's debut was a bit more anticipated, I think.
Oh, the Butch. Yeah, that was pretty epic, the Butch. What about Gavin Wanganeen's debut?
Yeah, we didn't really debut for us, really.
Well, he did. He came in and debuted for us. His first game with the Power.
Yeah.
That's still a debut.
I don't think... I wouldn't classify that, to be honest.
No?
No.
Oh.
No.
Well,
I think mature players coming in or coming back, as in Wanganeen's case, is a bit different to like 18-year-old kids playing their first game.
I was actually really, really excited with Ben Jacobs. I thought Ben Jacobs was going to be like the second coming of Russell Lever. And so I was really excited. He was probably the most excited I've ever been of a player playing his first game.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah.
So
SPP
I have nothing to say to that.
SPP is just another a mini choppy coming into the mix.
Yeah, should be good. Next question from Power Girl, also about Power Pepper. How long will it take the coaching group to wear him down and remove all of his grunt and hardness?
Yeah, look, I'm expecting Burgess to probably get a couple of marathons in him before the halfway mark of the season. Try and strip him down by 10 kilo and get him looking like an Ethiopian runner anytime soon.
I heard he was doing the Bondi Ironman tomorrow, so he should be ready for the Swans. He'll slim down and should be ready to go.
Yeah, I'll be with him. Let's do it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Christoph, just exactly how many roads must a man walk down?
For what purpose?
Before it makes him a man.
But let's define what is a man.
I would say...
Who am I?
Who are you? Well, that's a good question as well. Look, I would say 15 roads, probably the length of Port Wakefield Road. If you can do that 15 times, I reckon you'll be made a man, I reckon.
No, not really. I think it's a deeper question than that. I actually think it's really questioning who am I as a person and who are you? And then once you define that, you can define how long a road you need to travel to become the person that you are.
That's it. 1,000 miles, Rick. Then maybe you'll walk 1,000 more. Speaking of songs, Bomber Clifford has said Sweet Caroline or Crunchy Granola.
Now, look, this is a very serious topic for me. And when Neil Diamond comes into the mix, there's no more jokes. Like, he is like one of the mecca of all meccas with Johnny Cash, Dean Martin, all those legends. Sweet Caroline all the time.
I don't know. Look, to be honest, I got audibly tortured with Neil Diamond from birth, as my mum pretty much played him all day, every single day of the year from until I moved out of home. So my response would be to go F yourself, really, in terms of questions for Neil Diamond. But no, the correct answer would actually be Crackman Rosie, I think.
What the hell? Go F myself?
Look, Cracklin' Rosie is clearly the best Neil Diamond song, and I won't hear anything otherwise.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard that song.
Really? You're nuts.
I'm gonna have to go to YouTube
You can
right
tune
now.
it later. Not right now, because we're in the middle of a podcast. And speaking of which, there's another question from Peck. Another one about Pal Pepper. Realistically, how well is SPP performing compared to expectations on draft day?
Well, I wasn't expecting him to play round one, and I didn't think he was that good last. My comments were I didn't think he was ready, and you thought you were champing at the bit to play him. So obviously you would be expecting that he's above expectations at this point in time.
I wouldn't say above. I would think he's probably around about par from what we saw last year and what my expectations were on draft day. I think he was always going to play pretty early. And I think he's probably been a little bit more impressive than what I thought he would be in terms of what he's done with the ball. But yeah, I would say he's probably on par.
Yeah, I think I've been. Even though I didn't think he would play round one, he's been a solid contributor. So yeah, I guess pre-season. We're only going to know when the heat is on.
That's it. Question from Power. How many potato cakes could you eat in one sitting?
How long am I in the city for?
In one sitting.
Oh, one sitting. I thought you said city.
No.
Potato cakes. Depends how big they are, but going on a conventional, say, 4-inch diameter potato cake, and depending on the exercise I've done, I reckon 5 or 6.
Okay. Yeah.
It would need a good aioli, though.
Yeah, that's fair. A nice Chipotle aioli, I reckon, would go pretty well. And look, if they're decent size one, I reckon I could do 8 or 9.
Shit, 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Any other condiments outside of aioli?
I think a bit of peri goes pretty well as well.
Yeah, nice. Bit of mayo.
Probably not mayo. I wouldn't go the mayo route. I think you need something with a little bit of spice, a bit of tang to it. Could
you stuff one with a deep fried Bounty bar or something? Have you tried any other new inventions over the week?
Not yet, mate. Not yet. But you never know. You never know what will come up next. Next question is from Jason K. If Zach Jones from Sydney is moving to an on-bowl role for them, does that leave Mills as their only real running rebound defender? And do they look a little bit slow back there?
Yeah, why not? Sounds good to me.
Well, I didn't think you'd be able to answer that one, but that's all right. I don't think Jones was one of their main rebounders anyway. I think they've got Rampy and Mills who do the majority of the work. Lloyd often sort of sneaks back there and provides that sort of main link-up role as well. McVeigh will come back into the side pretty soon, and they also picked up Sean Edwards as well, who's an emergency, who's very, very quick. So I'd also expect maybe someone like Brandon Jack or Dan Robinson might head back there at times this year, and they'll certainly play a bit more footy this year as well. But do they lack speed in defence? Probably a little bit, I would say.
Look, I think that's the least of our concerns, to be honest. I'm more concerned about how we're going to negate Paul Kelly, because he always does really well against us. And Paul Roos, he provides a lot of rebound and that marking intercept along the half back line. So, and again, I'm not sure how we're going to chop that out, and which player is going to potentially do that, and who the hell is going to stop Tony Lockett from kicking 14 goals, because he always massacres us.
Well, look, the run from Stuart Maxfield and Wayne Schwash from the half-back line is going to be hard to beat, I've got to say.
That bloody blonde surfer used to annoy me all the time.
Yeah, that's it.
But hey, did you see that Tony Lockett was actually giving Franklin some goal-kicking tips this week?
He was. Have you seen that Tony Lockett's lost about 40 kilos?
Mate, I couldn't believe he's like actually at AFL playing weight. which he was
if
never.
you would, he looks like a skeleton with skin. That's about it.
If only it was like that during his career.
He's a cadaver that hasn't started to decompose yet. I think that's about it. But
So why is it that the great Tony Lockett can get to the SCG to help out the Budster, and we can't get Warren Treadray or Scotty Hodges down to the footy club to help our boys out?
well, they need to, they need to ask for the help first, don't they?
Well, why don't we ask? Surely that would be inspirational.
Some of these players would want to be helped. Like they probably wouldn't just appreciate someone turning up and saying, "Hey, I'm going to fix your kicking." Like they're going to have to sort of front up and say, "Hey, my kicking's a little bit wayward at the moment. Can we see if we can get Treaders down?"
Well, you're not telling me that Dixon wouldn't want some additional help with his goal kicking?
Don't know.
Yeah. Man, I'm sure if one of the coaches came up and said, "Hey, do you remember Warren Treadray?" Or, "Hey, check out these highlights of Scott Hodges. He kicked so many goals, X amount of goals for Port Adelaide in the SANFL and in the AFL. What about, wouldn't you like him to come down and be an inspiration and show you how to maybe kick a goal from, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah, why not? I'd love to do that."
We've got a question on the Spreaker chat from Nicholas Teal, who has asked, if you were a musical instrument, what would you be?
Well, I am a musical instrument. I sing dulcet tones all the time. Would you like me to sing something?
You do sound like a bit of a tuba.
Yeah, I could. I'd probably go for a. I don't know. What would I go for? What's the stand-up bass? That's not an oboe, is it? It's
the double bass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What is it? What is it? You know what it is?
A double bass. Yeah.
It's not a double bass. It's got a better term than that. The one that stands up and the girls put in between their legs and play.
Yes.
No.
The one from the living end. Yes, it's a double bass.
Is it?
I think so.
I'm thinking more of the sharp.
The sharp. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, the sharp.
You don't know who the sharp is? You need to Google the sharp. Scratch my back.
Okay, will do. Right. Let's get on with the preview. Port are playing Sydney at the SCG on Saturday afternoon to start our 2017 season. Sadly, we've just got a 25% win rate against the Swans. We've won just 7 out of our 27 matches against them in the AFL. So statistically, we actually have the worst record against Sydney out of all the teams in the AFL, which isn't all that great. Sydney are on a pretty big run against us as well. We've only won 1 of the last 14 matches against the Swans. Our last win came back in 2013. And the last time we actually scored 100 points against the Swans was in round 2, 2006, 11 years ago, which was the second last time we actually beat them as well. So historically, it's probably not looking too good this weekend.
Mate, how long have I been bleating on that it's an indictment that we have this record against Sydney? And, it's probably at least two squads or 2 rosters that we've cycled through, and we still haven't been able to sort of regain some of the statistical dominance Sydney's had against us. And I think that's still an indictment on us. And, I always come into a game optimistic, and, I think round 1's 50-50, but, when you look at when you're a realist and you listen to those sort of statistics, well, obviously, we're probably not 50-50, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah. Well, you never know. I mean, records are meant to be broken, and this would be the perfect time to get one over the Swans, especially to start the season. We probably do need a win pretty early on in this first month, so it would be such a great confidence boost if we could actually get over them.
Well, this is why I'm a little bit disappointed that we maybe didn't carry Atley in as an extra inside midfielder, especially seeing we're not playing Hamish Hartlett in that sort of role, which I think he's physically got the capabilities to do. I would have loved to, Ollie Wines, Sam Powell-Pepper, Atley in there as inside midfielders, distributing it to the Robbie Gray and the Travis Boak and Pollock and Ebert on the outside. I mean, that would have given. That's what we need, isn't it? We need that inside grunt.
It is, yeah, we probably do. We'll talk about the teams in a moment. The other thing of note for this game is that it's our captain, Travis Boak's 200th AFL match. He's obviously been a great captain for us. Debuted in 2007, and he's playing his 200th this week. Any words for Travis?
Yeah, what a great guy. What an inspiration! What an inspirational leader. But like seriously though, I mean, I heard it. It's been spoken about a bit, but he was one of those guys that could have gone and didn't, and remained loyal to the club, and and that really set a precedent for a lot of other players to continue their loyalty with the club too. So,
that's right.
He could have taken the easy option and gone home, and he didn't, and got to respect that. And I respect that he continues to put his body on the line every game for the Port Adelaide Football Club, and he's been a great captain.
Yeah. You just got to wonder what might have happened if he did leave, and if Trengove left the year before, because I think Trengove was the one that sort of first started it and said, look, let's make a stand. We've all got to stay here and make things a better place and make ourselves a better team. And so far, since then, since 2011, I don't think we've actually lost a player that we probably wanted to keep.
Yeah, but we probably should have got rid of some that we did want to keep too.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
And imagine if it was like Bizarro World and they all left, but we'd retained Troy Chaplin and Ben Jacobs. What sort of team would we have had then?
Well, let's. I shudder to think. Well, let's talk about the teams, and we'll talk about. We'll leave the debutants for a moment. But any surprises in the lineup for you, mate?
Probably Broadbent after his limited pre-season contributions, and as I sort of intimated with Atlee, I just probably, I don't know, I would have rewarded the form of the players that did very well instead of sort of rushing back Matthew Broadbent. Probably that's the only one.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, that for me is probably...
Do you disagree?
No, I don't disagree at all. I think that's a little bit of a surprise. I guess in the end it probably would have come down to either Broadbent or Atlee, I reckon. And they've probably decided to go for the experience there, which is fine. I mean, I don't know. I've got some queries about our defence and how it looks, but Broady back there, we know he can run and carry the footy, and at the SCG, which is a smaller ground, his booming left leg could be a bit of a weapon.
Well, I mean, I can understand the temptation to want to have Broadbent there because obviously we've lost a bit of experience with Jasper Pittard, and apologies because are you still having trouble getting the AFL and the Port Adelaide website loading? Because I just wanted to refresh my memory on the side and it's not coming up. But, I don't know, I just think Broady's been a little bit flaky over the last couple of years, and I just would have really liked to have rewarded the form youth players that did well in the pre-season, personally. Yeah.
I guess it's that balancing act between debutants and young players and experience, and facing a Swan side which is, probably pretty ready to go. They just played off in a grand final last year.
But how you just spoke about the Port Adelaide record against the Sydney Swans. How have the regular senior players gone for us against Sydney in the last 3 to 4 years anyway?
That's fine, but if you play too many young kids, I mean, you run the risk of losing by 70 or 80 points, don't you? So,
do you?
I think you do. I think you do against the Swans.
I'm pretty sure we could.
We saw what happened last year when we had half the side and went there with a pretty young team.
Eddie's a 27-year-old player, so he's not like an 18-year-old. So you're talking about three first-year players, and Dan Houston's actually been in the system 2 years now.
1 year.
So, well, he was recruited in 16, wasn't
he? Yeah, so he's had one season. Yeah,
one season. Well, that's more than Atlee and SPP. So
it's still his first game, isn't it? It's a bit different when the real stuff starts. So
bring it on. These boys are up for the challenge, Macca. Let's back them in. I'm sick of the same old.
Let's talk about the debutants, I guess, and that's Sam Powell-Pepper, Dan Houston and Brett Eddy will be playing their first games on Saturday. All deserved. All three had a very, very good pre-season. I think Brett Eddy looked really good in that last game. Dan Houston was just solid as a rock back there. And Sam Powell-Pepper, we've spoken about at length already.
Yeah, SPP. Eddie, I'm really intrigued with. I'll be interested to see A, how he handles the smaller SCG, but B, he's been our most natural looking forward for the pre-season, as far as I'm concerned. If we're thinking about there's no more Jay Schultz there, and how are we going to replace Jay? Well, I think Eddie's looked fantastic in that sort of similar role. Not trying to say that he's as good as Jay yet through 3 pre-season games, but he just moves to the right spots and seems to attract the ball and leads well. And so, it'll be interesting to see, do we go as regularly to Dixon, or do we spread the love between Eddie and Dixon and what we do there? And Houston. I've really been impressed with Dan Houston this pre-season. What about yourself?
Absolutely. As I said, he's been solid as a rock. He hasn't really put a foot wrong. Defensively, he's been really solid. He's been great with the ball. He really wasted disposal, and that's exactly what we need coming out of the back line. We know that we can turn the ball over quite a bit, and have done the last couple of years. So to have someone that looks like they've got a pretty rock solid foot on them, happy days, mate.
Yes, and Dan, I'm really excited for Dan Houston. I love his disposal. I think his ball use has been very, very magnificent for what
someone
we
so
usually
young.
see.
Yeah.
Well, for someone so young, but I guess we've been sort of not expected, but we've been accustomed to flaky halfback flankers for a while, that have taken a few years to earn their stripes, like Jasper and now Riley Bonner. So to see someone come in and play maturely at a young age is refreshing.
It is, absolutely. In terms of concerns about Dixon and Eddie and how they're going to work together at the SCG, look, anything will be better than what we performed last year, where we were 6 goals, 5-0 at quarter time and just couldn't get the ball forward. So I think if we can get the ball forward, I think Eddie is going to have a chance at kicking a few goals. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what do you think, though? What do you think the game plan is going to be with Eddie versus Dixon versus Trengo? Do you think it's going to be share the love? Are our midfielders smart enough to just spot up the best player, or do you think they're going to do this continual bomb it deep and long and high onto Dixon's head? It's hard to see how the three-tall forward is going to work at the SCG, but I guess you look at the Swans and they've got the same with Franklin, Tippett and Reid. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I would love to see Eddie sort of patrolling that sort of 50-metre arc. Dixon a bit further back and Trengove pushing up to the wing a little bit. That's what I would prefer to see, I think.
Yeah, well, I guess you've got Tippett that sort of goes up as that ruckman as well, don't you? Which will be the sort of the equivalent of Trengove. And I guess that extra tall becomes tricky now because you don't have that third man up. So there's no point pushing that extra tall up to the contest unless they're exceptionally mobile, which is Buddy Franklin, who's a bit of a freak. But we can't compare Tippett or Jackson to Buddy. That's for sure.
No, that's right. Quick look at Sydney. I mean, their pre-season form has been pretty good. They beat St Kilda and GWS. They lost to North by 2 points. So they've been in pretty consistent form. They do move the ball exceptionally quickly and can transition from the defensive 50 to deep forward in the blink of an eye, especially at the SCG. And we know that they're all about the pressure and contested footy and really choking their opponents into submission like they did with us last year.
Yeah, well, it's just all theoretical, isn't it? I guess our pre-season's been a little bit difficult to gauge. I agree with some of the sentiments that, we won a fair share of our quarters, and it was really only 2 disappointing quarters that let us down in 2 of those games. But I think that's been the misery of our demise over the last couple of years, that it's just been...
It certainly has.
Like you just mentioned, when we played at the SCG last year, nothing to 6 goals 4 or whatever it was. I mean... And then we just can't seem to rebound from those disappointing quarters. We've had a few gallant defeats, but that doesn't cut it after a while. So I really just want to see us consistently push and battle, and I'm really interested to see how we handle the inside contest.
Should be interesting. I want to have a quick look at our forward line just to start with, and maybe some matchups as well. Charlie Dixon, he really needs to perform this week. He didn't have a very good pre-season. He struggled through the back end of last year as well. You would think probably Grundy will go to him, who lacks maybe a bit of height, but has the bulk to go with him physically, and is such a dour defender. He rarely gives his opponents an inch, really.
Yeah, Grundy's a great defender. Yeah, and I guess he's wise enough to be able to handle a Dixon. I'm excited that Wingard's named in the forward line to start with, and I guess the thing that I'll be looking for is our forward line actually locking the ball inside 50 and not allowing for quick rebounds. That's going to be one of the keys to success, really, because if we just allow them the quick rebound out of our forward 50s, I just don't see how we can win the game.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Westhoff as well, he'll be up there. Do you think we might be a bit too tall with Eddie, Dixon, Trengove and Westhoff in the forward line?
Look, I would imagine they'll probably float either Westhoff or Trengove back. They'll probably alternate it between the two players.
Yep.
And use them as the spare loose floating defender. I don't think we're going to have a traditional. What team does these days? But I don't think we're going to have a traditional 6-man forward line. So yeah, I'd imagine that one of those will be a decoy forward that will just float back in defence and try and do the chop out marking.
Yeah,
which might be a good game plan.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I would expect that to happen. I think you would probably expect Laidler to go to Westhoff or Trengove. He's got the pace and the agility to go with both, and is deceptively tall in terms of he's got good reach and can defend pretty well. Pretty reliable defender for them. In terms of Brett Eddy, I would expect Dane Rampy to go to him, the old Australian from last year. I expect him to take Brett Eddy, and maybe Harrison Marsh. Depends. Should be an interesting matchup. I think Eddie should have the size. But yeah, Rampy's definitely got the smarts to go with him.
Hey, I can't load up the teams. Was Aaron Young named on the half forward play?
He was named in the pocket, mate.
He was in the pocket. Okay.
Yeah, if you go to Google and just and Google round 1 AFL teams and go to the Raw, you'll be able to get that website up.
Okay. Good old AFL website, eh?
Crashed on the first day of the season. Well done, Telstra. Now, what are we going to see up forward in terms of smalls? We've got Robbie Gray named in the midfield. We've got Sam Gray on our forward flank, Aaron Young forward pocket, Chad Wingard forward flank as well. But the talk is that Robbie Gray is going to spend most of the season up forward. Do you see that eventuating?
No.
No.
Do you?
I do, yep.
Do you?
I think he'll play most of, especially this week, in the forward line, I think.
Well, I guess it depends how the new midfielders go, to be honest. It would be a bit of a luxury to play him just as a permanent forward.
Yeah.
So, if we're getting dominated, what's the point of having Robbie Gray stuck in the forward line? So I'd much prefer him around the ball predominantly. He's a ball winner. I guess the only concern is, are they worried about his potential leg speed? Is he losing some of his leg speed?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's more to do with his body and maybe trying to sort of ease him into the season a little bit. I don't know, but look, we know how dangerous he can be up forward as well. And we do need players that can keep the ball in the area, which he's also very, very good at. If we can have Gray and Wingard perform on the day up forward, and especially if someone like Dixon or Eddie has a bit of a day out as well, we're going to kick quite a few goals.
I'm really excited that Darcy Byrne-Jones is named. He was an inspirational player for me last year. So
he was very good.
Oh, he was just so hard.
Well, he's an absolute lock down there these days. He's an absolute lock. Yeah.
Isn't he? No, he's the type of player that inspires you to, as a fan, to watch football. He just gives his all, gets that white line fever, just goes in hard. He's not dirty, and you just know what you're going to get from him, and that's just 100% effort and commitment. And he's one of my favourite players. What about? So one of the keys for me too, Macca, is Brett Ebert and Jared Pollock. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would think so. Look, I think Brad Ebert really needs to have a huge game this week. He's probably going to play on someone like Kennedy or Hanbury. He's just got to be able to play a bit defensively and also get a lot of the ball. If Jared Pollock gets a lot of the ball, you know that we're going to kick goals because he's just so good at delivering the ball inside 50. He's going to hit Dixon and Eddie on the chest more times than not.
Well, I just thought Jared had an understandably inconsistent year last year. Yeah. But for Brad, I he's a lot better player than what he delivered last year. I thought I thought he was inconsistent with his influence in the games compared to previous seasons, and from a senior player, he was also playing
a bit of a different role as well. He was playing a lot more defensively, doing some tagging jobs than what we had seen in the past.
Yeah, look, don't try and make excuses for him. Okay.
Well, look, I would love to see. I would love to see the 2014 version of Brad Ebert come out and get his sort of 30 touches and also lay 8 to 10 tackles. That would be great.
That's what we need. We need his. Yeah. I mean, remember when we started this program all those years ago, and we had and we started it with Enviable, and he was in awe of Brad's gut running the lines, and and Brad did that for a couple of years, and that sort of dropped off a little bit, and it's not as noticeable. And I think we really need him and Jared both, doing that gut running, line breaking. Between that 100 metres between the two arcs, and
for sure.
If we can get, because that provides that link-up play and gives us that run and carry as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think if we can actually get the ball forward, I think we've got a good chance to win because, with Wingard, with Gray, with Westhoff, Dixon, potentially Trengove, Aaron Young up there as well. Look, we do actually have a pretty decent forward line and a forward line that can kick goals. And I think the thing that's going to... which is what someone mentioned as one of the questions was... You right there?
Yeah, why? What's the matter?
As one of the questions... Turn your bloody computer down. One of the questions we got a bit earlier, which was in regards to the Swans' lack of leg speed down back, and that's something where I think we might actually be able to get a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, well, we've just got to break their any zone that they create, don't we? Yeah. So get through that zone, and then we're rocking and rolling.
That's it. Let's have a quick look at the midfield. We'll talk about the big four a little bit later, but in terms of some of those second-string midfielders for the Swans, Zach Jones is someone that's gone from a back pocket in the last couple of seasons, and I think he's going to be played a lot in the midfield this year. He's certainly played a lot through the midfield in the pre-season. Was the highest draft pick a couple of years back, and this could be the year that he becomes a bit more of a regular performer, and he's got the leg speed, he's got the skills to do some damage on a wing.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Zach can do.
So he's probably someone that we need to be a little bit mindful of. I don't know if someone like Sam Gray might go to him, or maybe Jared Pollock as well.
Do you really want to waste a Jared Pollock sort of manning up? That's not really Jared's specialty, though, is it?
I'm not suggesting we sit someone on him. I'm just suggesting that they'll sort of play near each other, and if Jones gets the ball, he's going to zoom off. We know about Jared's lack of defensive ability. Certainly last year he got dropped a couple of times for that. So if they do line up against each other, he's got to be a bit mindful of what's going to happen.
So don't you think maybe Brad Ebert would be better to maybe man up against him?
I think he's going to be more use deep in the guts.
Deep in the guts?
Yeah.
What about the big buddy? I mean, that's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Does he play midfield?
Oh, yeah. He'll play anywhere he wants to play.
Look,
I've still got.
Funny I say that because he does actually. He probably spends more time outside of the 50 as opposed to inside the 50 at the SCG. He does sort of patrol that sort of 50 to 70 metre zone because he can hoof it 70 metres and he's going to bloody get it down there pretty deep. And he's done a lot of damage against us by doing that sort of role in the past.
I just hope we've got courage. And we just man him up with Cleary. Because Cleary's our best aerobic defender.
That's got to be the most logical matchup. It's got to be Cleary on Franklin for sure.
Because, I mean, if he goes outside the 50, I would, Cleary, and then once he drifts inside 50, you maybe go for Homch or something like that. And I think, with Franklin and Tippett, Yeah, you'd really be thinking Jackson Tringo's height would be a bit of an advantage for us in the defensive 50, surely. But I guess if they're drifting Westhoff or Jackson down there, I guess hopefully that will be enough of an influence to distract the forwards anyway. But I've still got scars from a couple of years ago when we should have beaten Sydney and friggin' Franklin kicked that goal from like 100 metres out on the wing. Yeah, it still gives me nightmares.
No, it's certainly true. And look, he's obviously the key player for the Swans, and he's going to be at least good for 2 goals against us. He usually is, and I think more often than not. Well, as I said, at least 2, I think. We seem to really struggle against him in general play as opposed to him hitting the scoreboard. He's only really destroyed us scoreboard-wise a few times, but it's his link-up play and his ability to get free and deliver that ball inside 50, which has caused us the most issues, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I said I'd be hoping we maybe just roll with a Cleary who's probably got the engine to go with Franklin and maybe even beat Franklin engine-wise. And just see what we can do there.
Yeah. I don't think he's got the pace, but he's certainly got the endurance to go with him. So that'll be a pretty good match-up. And look, hopefully he does a pretty good job, I would think.
Fingers crossed.
That's it. I mean, you would expect Homsch to go to Tippett, who probably doesn't have the height, but he's got the reach, and that way he can sort of zone off a little bit as well. I like that match-up. Who goes to Sam Reid? I'm not too sure. I think Janus on the forum wanted a DBJ, but I reckon Jonas is probably the more natural matchup. Sure. Reid's pretty dangerous in the air, but he doesn't really do all that much else, and I think that's Jonas's real strength is getting that fist in. So if he can sort of shut him out of the game, that would be pretty handy.
Looking at that defence, do you think really our defence would look stronger if Tom Jonas wasn't in there and Jackson Trango was that centre half back?
Probably. Look, I think Jonas had outside of the first quarter of that first pre-season game, I think he's had a pretty solid start to the year. And look, I thought he was reasonable last year prior to the suspension as well. So, look, I think he can perform a role this year. What happens when Logan Austin comes back, I'm not too sure. Ultimately,
Are you intimating that Logan's almost an automatic selection?
I think we need that. If we're not going to be playing Jackson Trengove down back, we do need someone with genuine height, because Cleary's like 193, Homsch is 192, I think. Tom Jonas is 188. We need someone that's going to be able to take either a wrestling ruckman or the genuine size key forwards in the competition. And what we don't want to see is someone like someone like Sam Reid or someone else, Danaher, someone like that, pulling down 10 marks inside 50 and kicking 8 goals. That's what you don't want to see. And I think that's the bonus of what Trengove can do. He's very underrated defensively. And I think it's also the bonus of what Logan Austin brings to the system is that he's got that genuine height and he is pretty good defensively.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Logan last year.
He played well.
Yes.
He played really well. He didn't really disgrace himself at all for someone so young and so inexperienced. So if we can get him back into the side in the next sort of month or so, I'd be pretty happy with that.
So you asked about Robbie Gray playing predominantly forward. What about Chad? Is he going to be predominantly midfield?
Quite possibly. I would like to see that. I think Wingard in the midfield is just as good as Wingard the forward. Gets a lot of the ball, reads the play super well. He's got great skills, got good pace, carries the ball. On the SCG, I'd love to see him play up the ground. And I think he'd be good for sort of 25 touches, and you know that he's still probably going to kick a couple of goals as well.
Well, I think he'll be twice the player against Sydney than what his output was in the couple of pre-season games that he played.
Yeah. Look, again, he was a little bit down last year. He had a purple patch of about 5 or 6 weeks, but that was about it. But he seems fit and ready to go. And look, as we've seen every second year, he's in All-Australian form, so hopefully he can bring that again this year.
Mate, I was just about to prompt you on this one. If every second year he's in All-Australian form, he's due for his cycle. I'd even go as far to say, if that's the case and he's playing midfield, you'd want to put a bet on him for top 3 for the Brownlow, surely.
Well, it could potentially happen. He hasn't been a big vote winner so far, which is a bit of a surprise, I guess. But yeah, I think he's certainly got Brownlow potential if he performs to his ability through the midfield.
And so the one player that we haven't mentioned is that a bit of an indictment on the player that we really haven't spoken about Hamish Hartlett at all and his potential influence on the game.
Well, you just don't know where he's going to play. Is he going to play down back? B, is he just going to skulk back there and get 6 touches and not do much else? Or is he going to, pick up 25 clinical possessions and provide us with a lot of run and some decent skills? So you just don't know which hammer's going to turn up.
And this is my question, because I think Broadbent's a little bit more consistent than what Hamish is, but we still have the same sort of question marks over Broady and his influence, as well as Hamish, and that's where I really question the longevity of these players in our side if they keep dishing that up year after year.
Well, I think this is why we've rushed Broady back into the team, to be honest, is because Hamish in the pre-season was still pretty unreliable. He was still missing kicks. Defensively, he was okay, but he wasn't really providing us with probably the rebound that we were expecting. So I think this is why we've rushed Broady back into the team.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, because I think if Hartlett had really had a great pre-season, I think we would be seeing Joe Atlee play this week and Broady having another week off or playing in the trial game tonight.
Damn you, Hamish, damn you. I really wanted to see Atlee played.
Look, as I said, I think last week, I didn't really expect him to play this week, but I do expect him to get a go in the first month. I think he'll probably play by week 4, I would expect. But some other key players for Sydney. I mean, Dan Hanbury is certainly enjoying his post-Corns Port Adelaide. He's gone from being Kane Corns' biggest bunny to picking up 34 and 36 touches, as well as Brownlow votes in the last 2 games against us since Corns retired. Very dangerous on the outside. He's a great runner. He's got awesome skills, and he does kick goals against us as well. Who do we put on Dan Hanbury, Matt?
Can we get Kane Corns out of retirement?
That'd be good. Look, Dan Hanbury is what I would love Sam Gray to turn into, that sort of player. Which I know he's asking a hell of a lot, but I would still like to see Sam Gray maybe try and run with him and do a bit of a defensive job and maybe see if he can pick up a bit of the ball as well.
You are the eternal optimist. Well, I wanted Ollie Wines to run with Josh Kennedy, right? So we got to get rid of that. So maybe we just match up Travis Boak with Dan Hanbury and tell the captain to do a job.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to be careful, don't you? Because if we play Ollie Wines in a defensive role, you wanted to play Ebert in a defensive role, and if we're also doing Boak in a defensive role, we're not going to have too many players that are actually attacking the ball in the packs.
Well, I don't want Ebert to play a defensive role. I just want Ebert to sort of play a conscious role. Yeah.
Look, I'd also have Ebert running with him. I think he could do a bit of a job on Hanbury. He's got the size to probably beat him in the air. He's certainly got the endurance to go with him as well.
I mean, they're all good players. So, I mean, you can't, like you said, you can't run with all of them. So, I mean, you can be accountable to most of them. But again, if you tell all your midfielders you have to be defensively accountable at the stoppage, well, they're not really going to want to hunt. Yeah, you're not going to want to hunt the ball, are you? And then so you're not going to win the clearance. So, part of us has to have a bit of confidence in the playing group and actually give them the courage to actually go attack the ball and win the ball. It's just, I think what we didn't do well last year is when we did hunt the ball and attack the ball, we just didn't use it very well at all.
Yeah. No,
and then we burn it, and then we got caught on the rebound after that.
Yeah. Josh Kennedy, of all the players in the AFL, Kennedy would probably be in the top handful that destroy us every single time we meet. And we've tried a number of players on him over the years, and really only Ebert's been able to negate him, and that was only that one game a couple of years ago. He averages 27 touches and a goal a game, and also 6.5 clearances against us. He's picked up his second most Brownlow votes against us. What do we need to do to stop him from dominating?
We just need to win the ball ourselves, don't we? Pretty simple, I think.
Can you play physical with him? Can you sort of rough him up a little bit? Do you just sit someone on him the whole game, or do we try and hurt him the other way and maybe get the mental side going a little bit?
Well, I think we need to initiate body contact without being stupid, because if we just let Sydney just dominate us physically, well then, it's going to be all over. But I just, as I was we were joking around before, I just think we just need to go head to head to agree. The paper names of our players are, they potentially are good players, but the problem is they're potentially good players, whereas the Sydney team are good players. Yeah. They stack it up week after week, whereas our boys, don't want to stack it up week after week. So that becomes the problem. So, I just think back to someone who posted up this week about Choco not wanting bloody Josh Kennedy with the Burgoyne deal because Josh Kennedy wasn't good enough. If only we had our time again.
Yes, certainly. Well, these things happen, don't they?
Yeah, too often.
And the other one that we've got to talk about is Luke Parker, who last time out picked up 39 touches and 3 Brownlow votes against us. He had 26 and 2 the year before. He's yet another big-bodied physical midfielder that kicks a lot of goals against us.
Well, surely, we're rattling off all these midfielders' names. It just highlights how influential we need Paddy Ryder to be at winning the tap and directing it to the advantage of our players, don't we?
That's right. And that's going to be the advantage, is having Paddy Ryder back. He'll be up against Sam Naismith and Kurt Tippett. Last year, Sam Naismith had a pretty decent game against us. I think he probably won the ruck battle. But Ryder is really the X factor for us. And really sort of seeing if he can perform and hit those tap-outs like he did the last couple of weeks. If he can get a few touches around the ground as well and maybe sneak forward and kick a goal, that'd be great too.
Well, surely you'd think that Ryder, on paper, would be a better player than Naismith.
Certainly on paper. I mean, Naismith is pretty young. He's only played a handful of games. So I think certainly he's got the experience and maybe the leap to go against him.
You'd think so. So I'm hoping that Ryder can give us that advantage.
Yep.
Fingers crossed.
Anyone else you're worried about with Sydney, mate, or any other comments?
Oh, just our coach's box.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how we approach this game, whether we go attacking, whether we go defensive, whether we go back into our shells if we start missing targets. I mean, that's the real concern that I've got, is if we start playing attacking, we miss a few targets, and then we just start sort of chipping it around and trying to keep possession of the ball. And I don't think we're going to win against Sydney by doing that.
We have to be courageous. It's our only option.
Yeah.
If we're too paranoid about how good Sydney are, we're just not going to cut the mustard. We need to be courageous in our own players and have faith in our game plan, which I'm not sure what our game plan is, but have faith in the game plan and just execute it. And if we're not good enough, we're not good enough. But that's what we did in 13 and 14, and it worked well, and we played with courage and didn't fear losing. And then when the heat came on, we started to fear losing, and that became a problem. So, I mean, we've always struggled throughout our history at the smaller ground of the SCG. So, it'll be interesting. It's an interesting game because, even though I've made it sound a little bit doom and gloomish, it's the first game of the year. We haven't been horrendously bad in the pre-season. We've got a pretty fit squad. So, who knows? On paper, we should be able to take it right up to them.
Yeah. How confident you of coming away with the points this week?
I'd probably go 70-30, Sydney's favour.
Okay. Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, probably around about the same, really. Yeah.
I'd love to go 100% Port Adelaide, right? But if we're going to be completely realistic and we go at the stats, it probably should be greater than 70-30 in Sydney's favour. But I think it's round one of the season, and sometimes they're not the best starting team in the first couple of games, and I think our boys might be motivated. So I'm hopeful that we're in it with a shot.
For sure. Well, look, let's get to some predictions. And first one I want to do is the game changer. Who's going to be your game changer this week for either team?
Who's going to be our game changer? Dan Houston.
Okay. Who's he going to play on?
He's going to play on Smith.
Okay. Smith.
No, he's not. I got my sheets the wrong way around. Dean Towers.
Classic
he's going
Rick.
to be. He's going to be in the forward line. No, he's going to man up on Dean Towers.
Yeah.
But I reckon he's going to take about 8 intercept marks and he's going to have about 20 disposal at about 90% efficiency.
Okay. That'd be good. If he could do a job on Towers, that'd be all right. Towers has got a lot of pace and can kick goals, but he is susceptible to someone sort of sitting on him as well. So if Houston can do that, that'd be great. I think the game changer this week is going to be an obvious one. It's going to be Luke Parker, I think, is the one that we really need to look at, and I think he's going to be the 3-vote winner for the Swans this week.
Yeah, well, if you're doing that, that means Sydney's going to win.
Well, yes. Most likely they will, yes.
Boo you.
Who's going to be your X Factor, mate?
Who's going to be our X Factor? I'm going to go Hamish Hartlett.
Okay.
I'm going to say he's going to get 25 possessions and kick 3 goals.
Yep. That would be wonderful if that happened.
Seeing I just bagged the crap out of him.
That would certainly be great. Look, mine, it's just got to be Paddy Ryder, doesn't it? I mean, if he can feed our midfield the ball, if we can get first touch, get the ball out of the area, get it up forward quickly, we're a big chance of winning the game. I think a lot relies on Ryder and Trengove winning those hit-outs and finding our midfielders.
Sounds good to me.
Whose time is it to stand up this week, mate?
Time to stand up would have to be Travis Boak.
Okay.
Even the captain on radio said he had an inconsistent year last year, and we need him to have a blinder of a game, a true Port Adelaide captain's game in his 200th. He needs to be desperate for the win and drive the team for the win.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great call. And, 200th game, he's the captain up against probably the toughest midfield to play against in the AFL. He's really got to stand up and do his job this week. And for me, it's an extension of that. It's the midfield as a whole. I think they're going to be under the pump this week. So it's time for Boak and Ebert and Wines and the two Greys and Polek to really stand up against a big name midfield. If they do, we could well win the game. If they don't, I think it'll be similar scenes to last year. But our midfield really hasn't stood up against a big name midfield for nearly 2 years now. So I think we're due.
We are due.
So who wins and what's the margin, mate?
Port Adelaide by 7 points.
Oh, okay. That's a good call. Who's going to be the leading goal kicker?
Hamish Hartlett with 3 goals.
Okay. Hamish Hartlett with 3 goals. That's a good call. I'm going to say Sydney. Look, I think we're going to play pretty well. I think it's going to be close for the first 3 quarters. I think Sydney will probably run away with it after that. But I'm going to go Sydney by 58 points. And I'm going to say Robbie Gray's going to kick 3 goals.
You're predicting a slaughter. You're so un-Port Adelaide. That is disgraceful. Yeah, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Port Adelaide win the game. Are they a potential lock for the top 8? And if Port Adelaide lose the game by 50 or more points, are they a lock not to make the top 8?
Say that again. If we lose the game by 50
If we lose the game by 50 or more points, we're a lock not to make the top 8. And if we win the game...
It's hard to say off the back of one game.
No, I don't think so. You'll be able to tell for the season how we're going to play by this game. I guarantee it. And if we win the game, are we a lock for the top 8? It's a yes or no answer, Macca.
If we win, it's going to feel like 2007 where we got that surprise win against Freo away from home. and we certainly made the 8 that year and indeed made a grand final as well. So if we can beat Sydney away with our history against them, our history at that ground, and how we've performed in recent years, and what we're up against, I think it certainly shows good signs.
And if we lose by more than 50 points?
We'll be cancelling this podcast, mate.
I can't do another losing season. And on another football-related topic is, can Dan Ricciardo win the Formula One championship this year?
No.
Have you watched any of the testing in the pre-season?
I haven't watched any of the testing, but I've loved having the dedicated channel this week. That's been great.
I haven't seen any of it. What have they been doing?
Lots of old stuff. Lots of old Grand Prix from the 90s and the 80s, and season reviews from the 80s, and yeah, it's been great.
Did they show any of the old Adelaide Grand Prix?
Yeah, they showed pretty much all of them, I think.
Oh, the memories. Mm. So, who's your pick to win the Grand Prix this weekend?
Oh, no idea, mate. No idea.
No idea?
No.
Well, that's no fun.
Back to a football note. Looks like the Maggies were too good for Sturt tonight at Alberton Oval, playing in the dark. They won the game 105-50, so that's a good performance by the reserves there.
That was a trial game, right?
It was a trial game, yep.
Have you got any standout players?
Don't have any stats at the moment, unfortunately, but looks like Gus Monfries had a pretty big game, so
right.
Certainly good signs for him.
You know, something we didn't talk about, the lack of noticeability of Brendan Archie and Jimmy Toumpas throughout the whole pre-season.
Yeah.
Does that are they like sort of a certainty to be delisted at the end of this year, or what's the story there? Is it basically saying to those players, boys, we know what you can give us and we know what we expect from you, so you either got to do this or you just don't have a look in at getting a spot in the game?
Well, if they've struggled in the pre-season, then it's understandable if they weren't really given a chance, which would be unfortunate if true. But
did they struggle in the pre-season?
I'm pretty sure they might have. We don't know.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything. But it's just really weird that neither of them. I don't think they were injured, were they?
No, I don't think they are. They just didn't get a go. So
that's what I mean. It's
well, look, what's the cycle? Like, realistically, they're probably the 35th and 36th players on our list at the moment. So if there's players that have had good pre-seasons and have shown good form through the pre-season, then it's understandable if they get more of a go in the pre-season games themselves.
So what are they going to need to do to be considered for an AFL game?
Just perform.
So what would
as Portia says on the chat, Toumpas and Archie are both already very lucky to be on the list, and you probably got to say that's pretty much true. Archie didn't have a very good year last year. He's probably pretty lucky that he got another contract. Toumpas was exceptionally disappointing, and again, he's probably coming in as just about the last player on our senior list. You would think so. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with those two players, but at this point in time, I think they're up against it to stay on the list for next year.
So should they pretty much both of them be full-time Magpie midfielders, and really they should be dominating at the SANFL level?
Well, we know Archie does already, so it's really up to Toumpas to step up and show why he was such a high draft pick and show why we chased him once he came out of contract at Melbourne as well. So it's really up to him to really perform this year because his spot on the list is on the line.
Do you reckon really Archie dominated at the SANFL level?
Well, he does. He gets his 25 touches every week. He is a very good SANFL player. He just hasn't been able to bring that to the AFL level as yet. But he is a very consistent player at reserves level.
Interesting. What do they need to do, Portia? Thanks for tuning in. I've missed you. If you let me know. Macca really hasn't answered the question. So he's doing the typical cowardice Macca, sitting on the fence, trying to be the nice guy that everybody loves.
I told you what they need to do. They need to work hard and they need to play well. If they don't do either of those things, then see you later.
Sorry, Ken. I want some hard hitting stuff here, Macca. I want to hear.
Well, what's your opinion? Tell me your opinion. What does Archie need to do to stay on the list next year?
I reckon he needs to average 30 disposals a game and a couple of goals a game because he's that sort of dynamic player. And I think Jimmy Toumpas needs to be getting in the mid-30s.
Okay.
I think he was a number 3 pick in the AFL system, which generally goes on, and he hasn't really been riddled with horrendous injuries. So
he has. That's why he's really strong.
Has he been riddled with horrendous injuries? Horrendous injuries? He hasn't done a knee.
He hasn't done a knee, but he's had big structural problems with his body, which is why he hasn't delivered on his potential so far.
What structural problems has he had?
Oh, he's had huge hip injuries and leg injuries, and that's why he's lost a lot of his pace. And that's the reason why he was such a high draft pick way back when, was because he looked so good as a wingman. Could just burn off anybody and kick goals. But he's shown absolutely zero of that so far at AFL level for both Melbourne and for Port Adelaide. And he's shown none of that at the Magpies as well.
Why did we keep him then?
Why did we keep him? Well, because we gave him a 3-year contract when he came across. That's why.
God, what did we give him a 3-year contract for?
Well, don't know.
Why did we give Matty Loeb a 5-year contract?
Yeah. As Portia says, Archie needs to show he's more than a fancy handball and do it under genuine attention as well.
I do love Brendan's handball though.
It's a good handball, but he showed none of it last year, and he didn't really show much else. So, look, we all love Arch on this podcast, and he's been on here before. He's a great guy and all that. But hopefully he can perform well this year and show why we've kept him for so long.
Do we have a pretty formidable SANFL side? Do you think?
Do we
have a bit of SANFL depth with Matty Lobe down there as well?
With Lobe down, if we stay fit, guys like Matty White and Atley and Todd Marshall up there, and if Eddie struggles at AFL level, he's the best SANFL goal kicker there is. I think certainly we've got the depth and the quality in that team to make finals and probably go pretty deep.
Here's another one. Is Matty Lobe going to affect the development of Billy Frampton, who's probably got more potential than Matt Lobe on our list at this point in time?
Potentially. I think potentially. Look, we've got Laddams, we've got Frampton, and we've got Lobe that we're going to have to fit into that SANFL team. We know Frampton can play up forward, so he's likely to go there. I think we'll see Laddams and Lobe sort of switch in the ruck, I would expect.
But don't you think Frampton's future is more as a ruckman than a forward?
No.
No?
No.
No?
No, I don't think so. I think if he's going to make it, it's going to be as a forward, as opposed to... He's going to be a forward ruck as opposed to a ruck forward.
And what about... what are you hoping to see from Todd Marshall?
Just to see him build his body throughout the year and show some of the reason why we picked him so early. Like, he's a great goal kicker. He's got great pace. He's a really good contested mark. I want to see him play some pretty good games this year, but I also realise that he's probably going to struggle at stages this year as well. So, it's going to be. But
are you happy to? Because I'm actually happy about this. But are you happy without finally some sensible rookie player management where we're not actually trying to rush his development and expose him too early, and are actually trying to develop a potential key forward rather than bust him and break him too early, which we do have a habit of doing sometimes.
Yeah. Look, I think I'm really happy we kept Snelling. I'm really happy he's at the club still. I think he's got a big future as well. Look, I think we've drafted pretty well the last few years, and we've certainly made some good decisions with that sort of back end of our list. It's probably some of the more sort of mid-range guys that we could have moved on, I guess you could say, in terms of age. But I do like what we've done in the last couple of years.
awesome.
Yep. On that note, mate, I reckon we cut it off there.
Do we?
I reckon.
How was the chat action?
A bit quiet tonight, but it is the first game for the season, so there we go.
Is this the song you're talking about?
That's the one, mate. Cracklin' Rosie, get into it.
Yeah, I know this song.
Yeah, that's good.
It is a good song.
It is a good
I forgot about this song. We can fade out to Cracklin' Rosie for you, Macca.
How wonderful. On that note, Can the pair.
Go to power. Have a good night, everybody.
Gray was brave, running hard, Moore getting forward. One last chance, Boat brilliant, Wines, Monfrey's centering ball, Cassisi, Willard! You know who again?
It is his birthday.
Kid's a freak.